presented by Prize Picks. $100 match on your first deposit with the promo code. Welcome to Light Years. Andy, Lou, we got a special guest this week.
Yes.
As we become old and crusty, I'm generally a nostalgic guy, but I get like added nostalgia when we can talk with kind of some of my favorite Warrior voices from pre-dynasty days, like the OGs, the ones who went to Oracle Arena before it got cool, the ones who
he was there. You were there, I was there, 10 to 20 other people were there. Most of them are no longer around, but no. I would say the godfather of online Warriors content and one of my personal favorites, Adam Lordson, author of the GSW Fast Break back in the day up until, I want to say 2017. Was that your official retirement?
Exactly right.
Wow. I was to be fair, I did a little Googling just to confirm. I remember it was somewhere during the KD years, but not at the very end where you officially put down the pen for good. You did the Costanza. You left on a high note for the better. Andy and I are here just, wondering what's going to happen. So.
Still kicking around, thinking about what the Warriors are going to do. Adam, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you very much for having me. It's like a rock band doing a reunion tour when they're old and crusty. So I'll play the Mick Jagger, Keith Richards here, limping across the stage, keeping it going.
Nice. And so, we haven't potted since the news of Jerry West passing has come out. Obviously, sad, and he's most well known for his time with the Lakers. But I'd be remiss if I didn't bring someone on who remembers when he came on with the Warriors, and maybe we can have a little conversation just kind of about his overall impact on the Warriors franchise. You had a nice Twitter thread kind of eulogizing him, Adam, the other day. So I guess I'll throw the floor to you to kind of talk about what you thought Jerry West meant to the Warriors.
Yeah, he's always been a hero of mine, like I wrote on Twitter. But I have vivid memories of just the emotional impact of him joining the Warriors. Got to set the stage a little bit. He had joined after Joe Lacob and the other owners had acquired the team from Chris Cohan. Bobby Rowell was gone. There was a feeling of there was some more competent leadership in place, but the team still wasn't by any means burning the world down. They were having their ups and downs. There was this sort of tension between could Monte and Steph cooperate in the backcourt? Could the team play any defense? Were they having too many turnovers? Were they brain dead? Nowhere near the sort of franchise that became dynastic like we saw. And so Jerry West gets hired. I think by the ownership, partially just to provide credibility to the team, to say we're not the same. Can I swear on this? Do we try not to swear?
Go for it.
So it's not the same shitty Warriors. That they're different. It's the new Warriors. And so he obviously brings that credibility in, but you got the full package with Jerry West. And so he takes the stage. It was at one of the fancy hotels downtown for his press conference. It was a big deal. They were holding the press conference in the city, obviously, rather than Oakland at the time, sort of foreshadowing what was to come with the movement of the team. But he takes the stage, and everybody says nice things about him, and they start doing the Q&A. And someone asks a softball question like, "So, what do you think of the team?" And his immediate response is, "Well, you need to figure out your backcourt because Monte Ellis and Steph Curry can't play together, and you play no defense, and you're never going to win in the playoffs if you have just an offensively good team that can't lock down and defend." And there's like a ripple that goes through the room. That he's wasted 5 seconds before tearing into the construction of the team. And this is at the peak of sort of Fitz hyping Monte as like a generational player that was going to lead the Warriors.
How did he not make All-Star? He scored just as many points as Kobe. Yeah.
Yeah. It's me, Kobe, and LeBron. Like, what's the difference really between us? So West just takes that and sort of trashes it. And that to me was like, whoa, like someone is coming in here and actually assessing the roster with sort of rational eyes and not just selling us a bill of goods on it. And that was Jerry West. I mean, that's how he behaved with the Warriors. It's how he was throughout his career. Reading the tributes has been fantastic because he's a guy who I think was the same person talking to random media folks, talking to Kobe or, LeBron, sure, Jordan, up and down. you got the same Jerry West in all of his complexity. And personally, like, he had his press conference that day, but he also stuck around for like an hour afterwards, just chatting with people, and was totally unguarded, really insightful. Felt like just sort of going to, a basketball PhD program, listening to him pontificate on what was happening in the league. And it was just really special, something I've always carried with me. I was some random fan blogger. I was nobody. And he was just sitting here talking to me and two other people in the lobby of a hotel about basketball, which was amazing. So always had a fond view for him. And I think that really is a dividing line in my view of the Warriors, because we can go and talk about it, but there's so many other decisions that fall after that point that he was instrumental in, where he was often a dissenting voice that carried the day. And you can draw a line from those decisions to the championships that the Warriors won.
I think the next one is the Klay one, right? I think that's the one where at that time I was all in on Kevin Love. I was also on a blog writing about how much I would trade Klay for Kevin Love. And it felt like Jerry West was the number one, number two guy that wanted to keep Klay. It was him and it was Steve Kerr. That story is public, but Jerry West was the other one. Yeah,
they were the two guys who said you got to be crazy if you're going to trade Klay. He's a two-way player. He's a perfect fit with Steph. They were the ones pressing that. I think West was the only one who threatened to resign if they traded him. I don't think Kerr had that threat. So
that's crazy.
Kerr just signed on to become the coach, so it would have been very ballsy for him to be like, "I'm out." Before ever coaching a game.
So I want to back up. Actually, I mean the Klay West dynamic is huge. But let's talk about Mark Jackson.
That's right.
One of our favorite figures. So Mark Jackson, when things were going south with the ownership group and with his relation with the team, one of the things he did that really rubbed people the wrong way is he threw Jerry West out of practice, which, you bring in someone like Jerry West, they're vocal, they're always going to have opinions. That's why you hire them. And I think it was sort of symptomatic of Mark Jackson's insecurity and the way he viewed his relationship with the rest of the club, that he would toss somebody like Jerry West out of practice. So,
I mean, just to add to that, I want to start at the beginning a little bit too. I'm just, when the Warriors hired Jerry West, it made me raise my eyebrows, because at no point in my lifetime had they ever hired someone who had options. You know what I mean? Like, Jerry West could get a job with basically any team. He's maybe the greatest GM of all time. Certainly the most accomplished and awarded one. I mean, the guy drafted Magic, got Kareem, got Kobe, got Shaq. Like, one of those moves usually puts you in the Hall of Fame. All four makes you an all-timer, So he has all that going for him on top of a Hall of Fame playing career. So I just remember when the Warriors got him, my whole thought was like, oh wow, they're serious. This isn't another guy who's here to sell me a bill of goods, as in Joe Lacob. And maybe I was wrong. Maybe he is long term. But at the time, I was like, they're trying to go, quote unquote, get the best and make this a real organization. And I do think on some level that set the tone for what was to come down the line with them.
It set the tone because the Warriors put people in the front office that I think were dramatically smarter than everyone else around them. And I know we're going to talk about the Warriors in the modern day. We're not going to get there yet, but think of the difference to me, what the Warriors had versus what they have now.
I mean, I think you mentioned Kevin Love for Klay Thompson, just to bounce around a little bit. Like, it was unpopular at the time to not do that trade. Kevin Love made first team All-NBA.
30-20.
Yeah, he had a 30-30 game. Like, absurd. And the season he was coming off of, I just pulled the numbers to confirm. 26 points per game, 13 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game. He was, carrying a garbage team. And at that point, Klay was a nice shooter, but he wasn't. I think he was averaging something like 17, 16 points per game. Nice. I don't think anyone saw him becoming a Hall of Famer at that point, except for Jerry West and Steve Kerr. And you know what? They tend to have, in Jerry West's case, he tends to have a good intuition on those sort of things.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's part of the Jerry West story is that he doesn't
Mhm.
see 2 or 3 steps ahead. He sees like all the way to the end to some extent. And the great epilogue on the Klay Kevin Love story is the Warriors and the team that West assembles basically ends Kevin Love's
yeah.
career in the finals by showing that that type of game is antiquated and that they had the way to just sort of shut him down and make him ineffective. So again, I think it was West sort of seeing where the NBA was going, knowing what would be needed to be competitive and to be at a championship level and really keeping the Warriors focused on it and being a loud voice in the room. There are a lot of strong personalities. Joe Lacob isn't a bashful guy. And so to go up to your owner who's paying you and tell him that he's crazy and that you're going to quit if they trade somebody, it's Jerry West.
Honestly, need more of that because the owner's always going to be a strong personality. You kind of, it doesn't bother me that Joe Lacob is like asks a bunch of questions and is bombastic. Like, I think that's just kind of par for the course for rich guys who buy sports teams. I think what matters is, always surrounding him with people who have enough gravitas to kind of be like, I know you think that's the case. I have 40 years of experience that says you're wrong. And this is what I believe. So,
yeah, you buy a sports team as a toy, at that level of wealth, at this point, like you buy it because you want to be the smartest guy in the room. You want to play with it. You want to have fun with it. But to simultaneously buy it and then say, okay, I'm going to turn over the most important decisions to these other people takes a lot. And it's important, I think, in terms of building the best team. You look at hiring people like West, like Myers, like Kerr, and saying, okay, you're the basketball minds, you go run this. I think that that's a big part of the story of the Warriors' success and of their wins as well.
Let's not forget, I don't want to move off this until we talk about him calling Kevin Durant. That was the other one. So that was and then West had left by then, but that was the one who, I don't know how many decisions he was making at the time. I know we had heard kind of like he was getting phased out a little bit and he wanted more power, wanted more pay. But that offseason, I think they compared that to him talking to Shaq, right? When he was running the Lakers. Something similar with KD, where I don't know if KD was always going to come to the Warriors or he was on the fence or something like that. But the story goes that he talked to Jerry West and Jerry West told him like, hey, this is, you're never going to be as good of a player as you, I think, can be, which was true for that first year. You remember that because KD really took that to heart and said, okay, like, I will become a really good off-ball guy. I will become a great defender. Remember how great he was that first year with the Warriors. And it's another thing that I think Jerry West was right about, but obviously more importantly, him just getting KD here guaranteed the Warriors a couple more championships.
Yeah, there's no one in the world who is more credible to make that phone call than Jerry West. Like you look at his personal history, having been to the finals that many times, not winning, having that hang with him his entire career and having that doubt of, I couldn't get all the way. And you have Kevin Durant having had a bunch of success, but not having made it all the way to winning that championship. You have Jerry West calling you, say, come here, you're going to win rings. Nobody can deliver that message better than West did. So again, that's a huge part of the story.
I've been thinking about this, whether the Warriors have another run in them or they're just going to fade off into the sunset. Undoubtedly, this is the greatest era of Warriors basketball. And when I look at kind of who are the most important figures in it, I go number one, Steph Curry. You can have all the smartest people in the room, but you need to have that one foundational player. Drafting him, even if it was Larry Riley, Don Nelson, that's the foundation.
Yep.
I'd say number two is Joe Lacob, because I guarantee you if Chris Cohan still owned the team, it would never happen, And other rich guys buying it, like you see Vivek with the Kings, just as enthusiastic as Joe Lacob, but the decisions aren't exactly as good either.
Well, look at so many examples in baseball, basketball, football.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Balmer. Money's no guarantee. You can have more money than all these folks and still not put together a winning team.
Phoenix Suns, exactly. And I would say number three, the more I think about it, is probably Jerry West, because I think if they do not hire Jerry West, he probably does trade Klay for Kevin Love. They probably don't ever get on that run they do, which was the number one reason they got Kevin Durant and everything got going there. Like having someone with that level of credibility around a motivated owner and, you know, a generational talent, like those three things were the three catalysts to what we've seen here. And I know everyone goes like Bob Myers, the architect of the dynasty, or Steve Kerr, both. I mean, I might put them 4 and 5, to be honest with you, in that case. But when I look at it down to its foundational roots, it's probably Jerry West. That's probably the third most important figure in building this whole thing up.
Yeah. I love Kerr and Myers, and they deserve all the credit in the world, but they were both incredibly green when they joined the Warriors in their respective roles. They hadn't played those roles before. And West was there to be the guy who had done everything. He had been a player, a coach, had figured out, what it takes to win at the highest level. And he gave them that wisdom and that pathway. So yeah, I would agree with your ranking on that one.
And then, that I had never thought of it that way. That puts it in perspective, because I think the ability for Joe Lacob to bring on people that I think he secretly knew that was way smarter than him is something that we don't see very often. And the more that I think other teams picked away at the Warriors' brain trust is how we kind of end up. But that's every empire in the world.
You change the world and then everybody catches up. So they changed the world. That's undeniable. The basketball world wasn't the same, but everybody catches up eventually.
Kevin Love being the last thing on this thing. I think the Warriors not going to get Kevin Love and then ending that style of player with their style of play might actually be the perfect way to describe how Jerry West transformed the Warriors into where they are today. So that's great. We'll get to the current state of the team in less bright news. But before that, the Light Years podcast were brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick one or two, more or less, player stats for a shot to win up to 100x your cash. 100 match on first deposit. Use promo code LightYears. PrizePicks is the most fun. I've had winning up to 100x my money this basketball season. You got quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat lines, which make PrizePicks the #1 fantasy sports app. PrizePicks also available in more than 30 states across the country. This playoff season, when they're in the end, the star players mean more on PrizePicks. Keep an eye out for star players on the board. You can receive a 10% payout boost if they're in your winning lineup. Download the app today. Use code LightYears for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today. Use code LightYears for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy. All right, we're brought to you by Factor. Warmer and sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Just had that for lunch, actually, because back-to-back meetings. No time to actually spend cooking. No time to want to think about cooking. That's where Factor comes in. You can get it done in under 2 minutes. You can also meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in under 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Head to factormeals.com/lightyears50. Use code lightyears50. Get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code lightyears50 at factormeals.com/lightyears50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
Mouthful. Whew. Absolute mouthful right there. Whew. All right, let's get to the current state of the team, Adam.
All right.
I haven't asked you recently kind of what your thoughts are. Where are you at with the current team? Are you in team this is just what happens, or are you in I'm still excited. Really mad about how they blew all those lottery picks?
Somewhere in between. Okay. the way I'd put it is, you got to build your team around the best thing you have, and there's no disputing that the best thing you have is Steph, and it has been for a long time, and it's still going to be for a while. And so, as much as I know ownership may want to think about, okay, what do we do after Steph? How do we bridge? How do we be the Spurs? 2 timelines, all that. I'm very much on the team that your guiding light should always be, how do we build the best team around Steph? And so I'm frustrated because I don't think they did that with the lottery picks, whether it's the people they drafted or whether it was even keeping the lottery picks. I think that there were opportunities where they could have moved away from picking a bunch of young guys or pick guys who are more ready to contribute. So that's frustrating to me. I'm thrilled they won in 2022. Obviously, that was a surprise. I didn't think they had it in them. And, I don't think they have another one in them, but I think that they should do everything they can to make Steph's time with the franchise as successful as possible. So until he says, I don't want to be here anymore, or I'm retiring, build the best team you can, playing to his game and his style.
Are you, we're going to talk about options moving forward, but are you in love with any of the younger guys, or do you see, that's a quick head shake.
I would trade any of them for the right vets to put around Steph. You're looking at like a 3-4 year time frame before he probably hangs it up. Who knows? I mean, he could play a little bit later probably. So you get guys who are going to be productive within that window. All the young guys, they have their pros, they have their cons, but their peak play is right at the edge of that. So I don't think that that's really the answer for me.
Which of the, not that this is in context what Andy asked, which of the young guys would you guess will be the best player in 5 years? So it has nothing to do with stats. Just like, which one do you think will be the best?
Probably Kuminga. But I don't know. I've always been a Moody fan. I think that he has a real fit on a team. He's the type of guy who I think is going to have a 10-year NBA career, maybe be a marginal starter, bench player, but is always going to help teams win and be useful. I think the guys they drafted last year, it's a little early to say what their NBA career is going to look like, but obviously they had great rookie seasons. So that's encouraging. We haven't gotten to it yet, but mainly I just want Chris Paul off this team. So
we'll get to it. We'll get. What were your reactions?
We can just get to it right now.
When it happened,
no reason to drag it out.
My reaction is he's my second least favorite player in the NBA, and one just from a pure basketball aesthetic standpoint, and basketball god standpoint, I think it's blasphemous that he's on the team. Yeah. But two, I think that they could have gotten a lot more value out of that spot. Granted, you were trading away a bit of damaged goods, but he was never a great fit for the team. He was always going to be injured for big chunks of the season. And he just wasn't, for an expiring contract, which he wasn't, I think, the highest value that we could have hoped for given his role.
The Jerry West quote kills me about the team being too small with Steph and Monte and not playing any defense. And then you run it back. How many years has it been since that moment? 10, 15 years now? Maybe not that long.
12.
But 12 years, yeah. And the Warriors put together a starting lineup of the floor where Steph and Chris Paul are playing the 1 and 2. Not to mention, like you said, that not only are they small, they're old. So the offense isn't even that great. But the defense is awful. So, yeah, I mean, I'm that was I don't know what else they could have gotten with that Jordan Poole contract, but it shouldn't have been that guy.
Well, I think the whole idea is Chris Paul having this expiring non-guarantee. He could have been the filler in a trade to acquire the player you were hoping to get.
But now you waste a season, right? And that's the thing where it's like, what else could they have gotten at the time? But now it's like, well, it's a filler. But how many fucking filler seasons does Steph have left?
Yeah, but if you take a rookie, or not a rookie, but one of the young guys or one of the rookies, and you combine it with Paul's deal, you can shop around. I think there's some players who could help a lot now.
I hope so.
We know
we all play armchair GM, but I just mainly don't want Chris Paul on the Warriors.
I mean, the one that everyone knows was on the table that they walked away from was Siakam for Chris Paul, Kuminga, and a pick. They were afraid they couldn't re-sign Kuminga. I don't really know. My assumption is
Siakam.
Siakam. My assumption is they didn't want to give Siakam the max he wants.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. It's impossible for me to look at that trade and say it's a bad basketball trade. Like, he fits the Warriors style. He would have made them better, but they have, they have 2 weeks to use that Chris Paul contract. We'll see. We'll see what comes of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He will be gone one way or another. There's no possibility in hell that he starts the next season in a Warriors uniform.
Bringing him back on the mid-level.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, this is where, like, you put on your owner hat and your fan hat, and they're different outcomes. Like, I get the owner hat wanting to minimize salary long term and manage the cap and all that. But, the luxury tax money is his dollars, not mine. But from a fan perspective, that would have been a much better team.
Here's the other thing that I kind of think about as we're kind of reminiscing on Jerry West and his impact on the Warriors. It's hard for me to imagine Jerry West being in the front office and them acting so indecisively. He's a lot of things. He's not an indecisive person when it comes to basketball. The optionality, we're going to play this out and see what our options are, just feels like a team who can't make a decision, which has been the entire crux of the past 5 years and the 2 timeline thing. Well, we don't want to trade the young guys because what if they become great? Right. But we don't, but we want to help Steph at the same, like, they can't make a decision in some ways. There's too much.
Yeah. And the second Klay injury obviously is really tough, because I think that's, a moment where if he doesn't get injured, if you're making different decisions that summer, maybe it all plays out differently. But yeah, Wiseman just felt like total indecision. The way they've been treating Kuminga and his development, Moody, those guys, it's like they can't decide whether we're rebuilding or whether we're trying to win. And that constant back and forth was not what you saw with Jerry West. Like you said, he was decisive and he knew where he wanted to take the team.
What does Jerry West say about James Wiseman?
I have a hard time imagining Jerry West drafts James Wiseman.
Yeah. I mean, he probably says he's a very nice young man and then says something horrible about his basketball play.
I feel like that's exactly. I mean, yeah, Jerry West was not one to mess around. The indecisiveness, that's the one, because you remember that Wiseman injury happened 30 minutes before the draft. Klay injury, sorry.
Klay injury 30 minutes before the Wiseman pick. Yeah.
The Wiseman pick is what I meant to say. So,
it was total fog of war too. Like we weren't sure what the injury was, and he was being examined, and it was a total mess.
I think
Bob was in like a breakup emotional state. I can't blame him for making a bad pick right there.
So that one, the indecisiveness, I think the one you can probably point to is like moving him off after the first year, right? Not waiting, because then now you're waiting into the second year, and then you go and package it and go get GP2 back, right? And then the second piece, I think maybe even I don't know about more importantly, but maybe even a better example is development of Kuminga,
right?
Especially Kuminga. Moody, I'm with you on the great role player, fringe starter, maybe the rest of his career. Very, I think I'll like him, but Kuminga's the one where it's like,
He's got the upside. Yeah.
Just hasn't been great.
Yeah. But I mean, the indecision, you win in 22, you got to come back that summer of 22 and just say, okay, we're all in. Like, screw the young guys. We just won a championship. Let's get as much veteran help as we can as soon as possible and go all in at trying to win the next year or two. Yeah. And they didn't. They just sort of puttered around.
Yeah. Puttered around. Yeah. All right. We'll get to the we'll get to the current day. Boston Celtics, my favorite team in the NBA right now. Before we get to that, Light Years Podcast, we're brought to you by Game Time. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip off. Use promo code LightYears for $20 off your first purchase. You can use apps listed in, like, customize your spot. You got last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy baseball tickets, and for any kind of event in your area. Priority last minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. You get all in pricing. My favorite feature, you just toggle this feature, shows the total up front, no surprise fees at checkout. You get seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and the lowest price guarantee. Or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LIGHTYEARS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LIGHTYARS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Oh, we're still a couple weeks away from free agency. We're recording this before Game 4, so it's not assumed. We don't know if Boston won the title yet or not. I expect things to pick up in terms of Warriors are pursuing X, Y, and Z in about a week's time. Usually the week of the drafts when things start leaking and more noise comes out. But the one thing we do know about the Warriors is Klay Thompson's a free agent. And it's, I don't want to say reported, but it's the worst kept secret that, he's kind of unhappy with the way contract negotiations went over the last year. He wanted an extension offer that they never gave him. He's apparently unfollowed the Warriors on Instagram is something I saw. Like I don't have time for this sort of stuff.
Oh my God.
Adam, where are you at with Klay? You want him back retiring a Warrior?
Yeah, Klay on Instagram always scares me. We need to keep Klay off Instagram. But I would love Klay back just for sentimental reasons. I love Klay. I love what he brings to the team. I love his attitude. He's part of this. I would hate to see him broken off and playing somewhere else. It just wouldn't feel right. Mm-hmm. From a contract perspective, I don't know if they're going to put money up that will bring him back because I think someone will probably overpay for him. There's always some club that wants to reach for that mythical championship attitude or whatever it is. Some GM that falls for that, and they're going to throw a boatload of money at him, and it may be too much.
You really think so? I've gone back and forth on this one really all year. Andy can attest to it. There's been times I think he's going to get paid, and there's been times where I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if he got frozen out of the market and ended up on like a $5 million deal or something like that. Okay, so all I'm saying is I've gone through both extremes mentally. You really think there's a team out there who's going to give Klay the $30 million a year?
Orlando's giving him that.
$100 million, 4-year, $100 million, 120, something like that, whatever that rate is.
Someone's going to overpay because there are teams that get frozen out. The Orlandos of the world aren't going to be attractive to the first tier free agents. They're going to want a name to feel like they're making a splash. You guys live through the Warriors doing this repeatedly. Like,
my Giants do this every offseason. So
Corey Maggette is out there getting paid.
Is Klay the new Corey Maggette?
No, I mean, I don't mean to insult Klay with the insult, but there are always teams out there that are going to overpay for the big name, for a guy who's going to be a good locker room guy, who's going to be a good leader on the team. He's not a problem. Like, you could justify that to your ownership. And I don't know if the Warriors, given the indications that they're trying to cut costs, are going to match that.
Yeah. I think it's going to be up to Klay. I'm not looking forward to maybe the PR battle that's going to happen, and it probably already happening these next 2 months.
It's gonna get turned up. It's like at a 2 out of 10 right now.
Yeah,
get ready for that baby to go up to 8 or 9 soon.
I can't stand it. I hate it. It's gotten a lot worse since this was a thing when Twitter was early on in its days, but we're going to hear every day, you know what I mean? Like, Klay and Instagram stuff, but it's going to be like Klay feels like the Warriors are shortchanging him, right? And the Warriors are like, well, they feel like Klay's got attitude problems. Maybe he's not a good leader in the locker room. We're going to start hearing this stuff. And I think that's maybe the most painful part of this for me, because I think if Klay's not on the team, maybe there are ways that they can get better. I don't really know how, but maybe
Chris Paul optionality.
Well, that's it, right? Like, you trade for someone like Levine, who's I've been a big fan of, at least in this situation. But the thing is, like, I just don't, man, I'm just not. Klay's a 4-time champion here, four, and it's gonna disgust me and make me sad when guys are tearing him down, and maybe he has some shots for the Warriors, and it's an ugly divorce. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. That's gonna be the worst part of all this.
And you guys know this because you're closer to it, but 99% of the stuff goes back and forth isn't coming from the basketball people. It's the agents, it's the front office folks, it's everybody just leaking back and forth. It's not Klay and the other guys on the team or the coaches who are saying most of this stuff. which makes it sort of extra poisonous. It's all just this proxy war that's being fought out in the negotiations.
Shams versus Woj soon in a
maybe
few weeks.
Yeah.
maybe I'm delusional or naive, but I don't think it'll be as contentious as you think. I think the Warriors would look extremely petty and small-minded if they took shots at Klay on the way out. Like, that's something Chris Cohan would do. That's not something the way this, if they did that, then I'd have much bigger concerns about what this team looks like after Steph, because I expect his agent to put pressure and put stuff through Shams and Woj about, Klay feels like after he gave his legs to the franchise that like he's being disrespected. And fair, I get it. From an athlete's perspective, I get it. But if the team starts doing the same thing back at him, like,
that's fair.
It's
a sign that you're trending back towards the Chris Cohan era.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I hope it won't be that nasty. I think you'll hear a lot about how, well, when it mattered, Klay didn't have his legs, he didn't have his game, he can't be depended on at the most important stages anymore, which I hate and is super toxic. You're also going to have a lot of other teams, I think, that are going to just be sort of throwing grist in the mill. And there will be a lot of loose sourcing on stuff where it's league sources say yada, yada, yada. So who knows if it's even coming from the Warriors.
League sources say that secretly the Lakers are furious with Klay or something like that. I got you. Okay. I didn't think about it from that angle, but yes, that will definitely be a thing. I guess my whole thing is I don't want an ugly divorce. But I also will forget about it in 2 weeks and remember Klay for who he was as a Warrior player. I'm kind of more concerned with, okay, if he feels like he needs to go to Orlando because he wants that huge contract for whatever reason to prove he's still that guy, I can live with it. What I don't want is the words like, okay, well, we got Moses Moody right here to plug in. We're going to go sign a mid-level exception make no tangible effort to actually upgrade the roster, in which case we're just watching a worse version of what we saw last year, right? That's the part that it's more worrisome to me. So I'm at peace with whatever Klay wants to do.
I don't even think they can sell that. I mean, I don't even think Joe Lacob can sell. He's one of the best sales guys in the Bay Area, but I don't think they can sell that.
Oh, you know what the sell will be? The sell will be we felt we needed to give more space to Kuminga to become that second star that we needed.
They're going to win 35 games.
And then Fitz is going to take to the to the radio. I guess he has no radio show anymore. So, but he'll take to wherever he can get a microphone. It's going to be very loud. It's going to be very loud.
Yeah, you look at the past couple summers and I worry that's the most likely outcome. We'll hear all of this. Oh, they were close to this, they were close to that. They just couldn't get it together. And then it's just subtracting salary and adding a couple marginal people around the edges.
I keep coming back to they can't be insane. They really can't be insane because Kuminga's, I'm not saying he's not an interesting player, but they're about a year away from him demanding 9 figures. I'm not really sure that anyone's seen enough from him to really justify making that kind of bet on him. I got to imagine they're thinking about moving this in different directions. I don't know. I have a hard time imagining they're going to run it back for the third summer in a row after the last 2 clearly didn't work.
Yeah, but it makes sense from a money perspective. If you're cutting costs, if you're just trying to get out from underneath the luxury tax while maintaining your options in the future on the young guys, then it makes sense.
The only thing that stops that from happening is Steph saying something. Honestly, that's the last thing. That's the last chip, and Steph hasn't said anything, at least not publicly. I also don't think he really said anything privately.
They were pretty vocal about Klay. I mean, Steph, Dre, Kerr, all those guys were pretty vocal about Klay, and that's about as far as I think they'll go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just don't know how they get better if you end up signing Klay for that amount of money. Because then now what happens, right? If you're also it's just like it's like Steph,
both scenarios are a problem. They sign him for too much money. They have no avenue to prove. he walks, they don't have enough avenues to add enough talent to the roster either. They need to like thread the needle with him at a
I'm telling you,
figure.
the sell is to just sign him for as much money as he wants, cut costs everywhere else, and just run back the big three and just go on the farewell tour for a couple years, win 45 games, go to a playoff series, and people are happy. Like, people will still watch, and they will still tune in.
They won 46 games and didn't go to the playoffs last year. It's not getting better with the same crew running it back.
Right.
You got to do something with Wiggins, obviously. You got to get something out of Chris Paul's contract and spot on the roster. You have to kind of pick your horses on the young guys, on who you want to give time and who you want to develop. But, I'm fine with the run it back approach with the big three, because I don't think you can fully rebuild with Steph on this team. You're always going to be good enough with Steph on this team that if you really want to commit to a rebuild, you got to do it after he's gone. So until then, do what you can.
The 1 year they got a top 5 pick, no coincidence, he played 4 games. So he wasn't there. That's your rebuild's coming when Steph finally stops playing or his body just breaks. Like you'll get your shot at Cooper Flag if Steph gets injured, or something like that.
I don't think I need any more lottery picks. I think I I don't want to watch any more Warriors drafted lottery.
It's the Mike Dunleavy era. Come on, you got to be optimistic.
Well, he did make some good picks. I'll give him that. He did make some good picks, but not in the lottery. We'll see. Adam might be like you when the Warriors end up consistently in the lottery. I will also be out of sight, out of mind when that happens online.
No, I still love the Warriors. I spent a decade plus of my life living and dying with every game. These things go up and down, and like we said at the beginning, they won more championships than I could have expected over 5 lifetimes of being a Warriors fan. So it's all gravy from here on out. I'll complain, but what a time to be a Warriors fan.
Yep. All right, Adam, we appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot of fun. We got to do it again, hopefully with positive news post summer.
Sounds good. Thanks again. Really had fun being on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam.